What's going on, everyone? This is the first Tuesday where we're going to have midweek college baseball action in a very long time, which for me is super exciting because instead of watching Tell Me Lies on Hulu with my wife, I'll be getting to watch some great college baseball midweek action. So the great news is tonight is the finale of Tell Me Lies. I'll finally get to finish that show, find out what happened. I got wrapped in. My wife was watching it, but it's very interesting. Good show. Check it out if you have time. But here are 5 midweek games that I'm excited for today. Now, the first game I'm most excited for has got to be Troy at Mississippi State. And the reason I'm excited for this one is with Troy, I'm really not sure what to expect out of this team. They had a super confusing opening weekend where they went 1-2 against Mercer, but they're coming off of a Game 3 win in which they won the game 19-3, which the offense was on full display. But the problem was in Game 1 of the doubleheader, they lost that game by double digits. So not really sure what we'll see out of this Troy team, but they can be really productive at the plate. They have guys like Stephen Meyer and Nico Azpilicueta who have been really productive for them. And then, of course, the Aussie Blake Cavell has always been productive for Troy. Now, on Mississippi State's side of things, they swept Hofstra this weekend, and in Game 1, not many notes. Hofstra's Friday guy was legit, kind of not as productive as I was expecting, but they were productive enough to win ball games, which is the most important piece. For me, what I think, looking at the players they have on this roster, they have a ton of different guys who can produce offensively, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a little bit of an opening weekend jitters. Not many guys have played in front of that many fans in college baseball, and a lot going on in this game, but I'm expecting them to get back on track and kind of have more of that offense. Even though they did sweep last weekend, I expect that offense to really be coming through. Now, the games between Troy and Mississippi State, I feel like they always get chippy. These teams are just randomly at each other's necks, so it's always a fun game to tune into. This game will be on tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern on SEC Network Plus. The next game I'm excited for is ECU at Campbell. These are 2 teams in North Carolina where, the baseball and college baseball, especially in North Carolina, is absolutely loaded. There's so many talented teams. And I feel like these are 2 teams where their talent always kind of gets overlooked. Not so much ECU, but definitely Campbell. Now, in opening weekend, ECU went 1-2 against Xavier, so this is a really big bounce-back opportunity before facing North Carolina Chapel Hill this weekend. I always love that they start the college baseball season off with these electric midweek games, and, between these 2, the action is always there. Now, Campbell went 1-2 on opening weekend against Cal Poly at home, but they won the opener, so definitely a lot of bright spots for this Campbell team. This is definitely a good opportunity for them to get back on track before heading to Troy this weekend. This game will stream at 5 p.m. Eastern on Flow Sports. The next game I'm excited for is Lamar going on to take on the Texas Longhorns. Now, Lamar, they looked really solid on opening weekend, going 2-1 against Oakland. They lost the Sunday game in 10 innings, so a really tight matchup there. It was 2-3 before they dropped it in the 10th. Now, Lamar, I haven't seen nearly the power that I've expected to see out of this lineup. I feel like they're just kind of scratching the surface as to what they can do on the offensive side of things, but they still found a lot of ways to manufacture runs. It's one of those games where it feels like every dude on the Lamar lineup is walking in with a chip on their shoulder, and from experience in the past playing in games like this where you're taking on the big in-state college, you usually have that chip on the shoulder. So they're going into this matchup with a little bit of extra spice, a little bit of extra energy. So always excited to check this one out. Now, on the Texas side of things, they looked incredibly crisp just on all sides of the baseball. They swept UC Davis in the opening weekend. Junior infielder Ethan Mendoza is currently 6 for 12 on the season with 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. And then Seton Hall transfer Aiden Robbins really got off to a hot start in his Longhorn career, going 5 for 11 with 2 doubles and a home run, just producing at an alarming rate for them. Texas is one of those schools that always debuts one of those freak freshmen during their first midweek of the season, so I'm really excited to see which one they have, which guy's going to be throwing 100 miles an hour for them, or, which freshman's going to come pinch hit 500-foot home run. Feel like that's something we always see in midweeks out of Texas. Now, these two teams, they did play each other in fall ball where Lamar came down to Austin and won 11-5. So I would expect that Texas playing this one with a little bit of spite, a little bit of, all right, let's get our revenge. And this game will be streamed at 5 p.m. on SEC Network Plus. So definitely one you're going to want to tune into. The next midweek game you'll definitely want to check out is going to be the UCF Knights heading on down to take on the Miami Hurricanes. And this game is big for a lot of reasons, but no bigger reason than the representation it has for Florida's infrastructure, where you can take the Bright Line from Orlando to Miami for like $30 and it gets you there in 2 hours, which, just a modern marvel of human technology. Now, the big thing about these games that I love, especially just the Florida in-state midweeks, is they're always so underrated because the baseball down here is just ridiculously good, and it is always on full display during these midweeks. UCF, they started the season off hot, sweeping Siena to kick off the season. Now, for UCF, one of the most fun guys to watch emerge in his collegiate debut was Jordan Lodies, who had a very fun welcome to college baseball in which he went 5 for 9 to kick off his collegiate career with a home run and 5 RBIs and a stolen base. Now, if you've heard the Lodies name and you're like, hey, that sounds super familiar, you might recognize his brother Kyle was the shortstop at Georgia Tech who got drafted at the end of last season, and his cousin Alex Lodies was the shortstop at Florida State before he got drafted at the end of last season. Now, for Miami, they're off to an absolutely blazing start. They absolutely wailed on Lehigh to start off their 2026 season. They swept Lehigh while scoring 57 runs. NC State transfer Alex Sosa is feeling right at home after transferring into Miami this summer. He started his career off with the Hurricanes, going 6 for 13 with 3 home runs. And then Miami's Derek Williams is coming off an ACC Player of the Week weekend where he went 8 for 11 with 4 doubles, 2 home runs, 6 RBI, and 8 runs scored. So just an incredibly offensive weekend for the Hurricanes. And this game will be streamed at 6 p.m. on ACC Extra. The final midweek game I wanted to go over is going to be the Tulane Green Wave taking on the UCLA Bruins. Now, UCLA, they're currently ranked the #1 team in the nation. They're coming off of an opening weekend where they went 2-1 against UC San Diego. And the Sunday game, it was one of the most electric games of the weekend. It felt like they were just going back and forth with the Tritons all game long, but a late 2-run bomb was the difference maker for them. Now, UCLA will be starting Angel Cervantes, who is the #2 ranked pitcher in the 2025 high school class. He got drafted 50th overall by the Pittsburgh Pirates, but turned that down to go to college instead. Now, over the weekend, UCLA's offense was on full display. We saw Will Gasparino, Rock Chalowski, and Mulavai Lavu all pick up home runs, starting their 2026 season off hot. But this offense is one that can certainly produce at a high rate. And Tulane, they're coming off a 2-1 weekend where they beat Loyola Marymount to open off their season. And this pitching staff simply looked elite. In their Sunday game, they picked up 19 Ks, which is good for the 3rd most in program history out of their pitching staff. And everyone on their lineup, 1 through 9, picked up an RBI on this weekend, so they can produce in a lot of different ways. The biggest storyline, of course, surrounding this game, where you have the #1 overall prospect for the draft on the #1 team, of course, is going to be Tulane picking up volunteer assistant Billy Price. He's really shown early why he's a front runner for the 2026 most impactful coaching hire. So again, just a guy you're definitely going to want to keep your eye out for. Now, that's all I got from my midweeks this week, but definitely going to be more games to tune into. I think there's going to be some games that really surprise as really good matchups. But thank you guys as always for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support that there's been for this channel. It's been a lot of fun bringing you guys different kinds of content. So I'm really excited for the rest of the season and how we'll continue to grow.